So now we move to iteration 6, where we actually do the conversion. So applying the app development process, problem formulation. And we have the scope. And in this scope, enable the user to enter an amount, select the units to convert from and to. The app will then display the conversion result. And I have a specific format that we're gonna try to use. So for example, we'll say 10 feet equal 120 inch. So that's how we want to display the result. So in the testing scenarios, testing scenario 1, will user enter 10, select feet to convert from, and inch to convert to, and the app will display 10 feet equal 120 inch. In testing scenario 2, for instance, user enters 10, select kilometer to convert from, and meter to convert to, and the app will display 10 kilometer equal 10,000 meters. You can probably say there are very large number of possibilities here. Should we have a testing scenario for every single possibility? And the answer is yes and no, depending on how critical the app is. If it is critical, then yes. If it is not critical, then maybe you take a sample. So if you have maybe 50 different possibilities or 25 different possibilities, then you could say 10% of those or 20% of those. So 5 testing scenarios or 4 testing scenarios that represents maybe the edges or the extreme cases, the large numbers, the small numbers, the decimals, the non-decimal, going from the 2 extreme units and going with 2 units that are closer to each other, like going from miles to kilometers or going from meter to feet or something like that, would be sufficient and enough. So in solution formulation, so with respect to the model, so I have already the data needed, but then for the conversion process, I need some of the data I need is the amount that we're gonna convert from, the result, and the conversion factor. We already determined that units and conversion factor determined or no change to them. The result is a decimal number, so we will use float for that, and the amount is also a decimal number, and we'll use float for that as well. Then in the user interface, the view, we need to add a component to for the user to enter the amount, and this is, we said we're going to use the UI text field, so we need to add that, and we need a component to display the results, and this will be a UI label, and then we need component to initiate the conversion, and we're going to use UI button. So the UI button will need to be connected to the controller in order to initiate the conversion. So the controller will connect the button object as an action to trigger the conversion process. I'm going to create a convert function to perform the actual conversion so that I isolate the actual mechanics of the conversion from the initiation of the conversion. So the user click a button, it goes to the initiation, and then that goes to the actual conversion. So the conversion function need to retrieve the amount from the text field. So we know that what amount we have. It need to retrieve the conversion factor for the unit that the user selected to convert from, and the same. And then this was the conversion factor to inch. Then in this case, it needs to convert the amount to inches by multiplying with the conversion factor from. Then it needs to retrieve the conversion factor for the unit that the user selected to convert to, and then convert the amount, the inches, to the unit by dividing over the conversion factor 2. Then we need to construct the message, the result message, the text I mean, and then display or assign the result message to the label. So that's what this function need to do. So in the implementation, solution implementation, step number 1, add the text field and adjust its properties. Then add the button and adjust its properties. I will need to connect the text field as outlet so that we can retrieve the amount. Need to connect the button as action to trigger the conversion. And I also need to connect each of the picker views as outlets. And then finally create a function to convert and implement the above logic or algorithm. That is the one that I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and do that. We're probably we'll see if we're gonna break that video to 2 or stay with 1. So first we need to add the text field. So type in text field to filter and add a text field. I'm gonna add it here in the top. Adjust the size to what you think will be reasonable for the user to enter. And then the text field has several properties. So let's spend a moment to talk about them. There is a property called text, which represents the actual text. I don't need to do anything with that because that's what the user will enter. There is a color, so you can select a color for your text. So I'm just going to select this color. You can select size. And there is a placeholder. The placeholder is an important text. We can use it to give the user a message, and the moment the user starts typing in the text field, the placeholder will disappear by itself. So we can say enter amount to convert. And when I hit tab, you see that the text field, this is not text, it's actually grayed out. Once you hit inside the text field, it will disappear. Then the text field also has a clear button. You probably have seen it before. And you can decide how you want the clear button to display. I like to use it appear while editing. You can then decide on capitalization. I'm going to use numbers, so no capitalization. Corrections, I don't want corrections because there's going to be numbers, and I don't want spell check. Keyboard type, there are different types of keyboards. The keyboards are very special. It's you want to understand it. The text field doesn't have a keyboard. The keyboard is owned by the operating system. It's its own object. But the text field requires a keyboard. So the text field, when the user gives the text field focus, the text field informs the operating system that I need a keyboard. The operating system will render the keyboard according to the type that you specify. And then the operating system doesn't take it back. We have to tell the operating system that we are done using the text, the keyboard, take it back. And you'll see that we have to actually manually do that to pull it. So there are different, the number pad or numbers and punctuation, decimal pad. I'm going to use number and punctuations, although decimal pad can be used as well. Let's use a decimal pad for now. Appearance and return key. What do you want the return key to show? If there's a return key, I don't think the decimal pad will have a return key, so we'll just say it looks go. If you want to look and see how it looks like, we can run, because it has a default behavior that you can see what we just implemented. And while it loads, I can add the label. So I'll put the label in here. Here it comes. And here is the text field. Notice once I hit enter or click on the text field, here is the pad, and I enter numbers, and the text has changed. It is removed, and there is the clear button, so you can use it to clear, and the placeholder text comes back. So if I want to enter 10, here is the 10. You can delete, and you can put a decimal point, so a decimal point work here. And you can delete, but it doesn't have a return key. So that should be fine. Or if you want a return key, you can use another keyboard from there. So that's the text field. I added the label. I don't want any text in the label, so I'll take that out. I'm gonna make the label 2 lines because I have longer numbers, so I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. Give it a different color. Maybe that you can. So that's the label, and then the last thing I need to add is a button to initiate the conversion. So here is a button, and we're gonna put on the button convert, so the user know that this is the button to convert. You can use images for the button or different things. You can set it up to look nice and neat. So now that we created the different components on the user interface, we need to connect them as outlets and actions. So I need to connect the button to a convert function. So since I have the button selected, click, and this will be an action. And then do you want a reference to the button? I don't want a reference to the button. I'm not gonna use it. And what is the name of this function? This is the function where the user clicked the button to convert. And I'm gonna make my own convert, so I'm not want to call it convert because in later on I want the user to convert by just rolling one of those wheels, and I'm gonna capture that event. So we can call this one user clicked convert, making things up here. And then I also want to add the text field as an outlet. So I'm gonna prefix it with txt for text, and I'm gonna call it amount. So this is the text field that represents the amount. Then I want to also add the label. So I'm going to prefix it with LBL and then result, label result. Then I have the picker view that the user will select from. So I'm going to call it picker view from or unit to convert from. You can use a short name or a long name as long as it is descriptive. Unit to convert to. So I added the 4 outlets, the label, and I added the connection, the user connection. So now let me shift back and try to implement the convert function. So we'll create a function here called convert, and it doesn't need to take any parameter and it doesn't return anything. So when the user click on convert, what we want to happen is to call that convert function. So here is the convert function. So we're redirecting to this function. But that's what does it allow us to redirect in many different other ways, not just by clicking a button. In many apps now, you can probably accomplish the same thing for by initiating multiple events, and that's something we want to be able to do here. So the convert function will need to implement that algorithm, retrieving the amounts from the text field, using the conversion factor, and so on and so forth. So we'll say that step 1, we want to retrieve amount from text field. And this is going to be a little bit challenging, and it is challenging because the text field, as you'll see, it will give us a text. So if we say let amount as text equal, and then you use the text amount and say where is your text, you notice that the text comes back as a string type. So this is a string type, and I added the exclamation mark because there was a question mark at the end. So I have it as a text type, but the text type cannot be involved or cannot be used in calculations. I can't multiply by 10 if the 10 is a text. I have to convert it from text to number. So to convert from text to number, it's going to take some steps. There's no direct way to convert from text to number, but I can use something called NumberFormatter, and the NumberFormatter can quickly can allow us to convert from a text to a number, and then we can take that number type to a float or integer, whatever we want. So let's create a text formatter, or number formatter, I'm sorry. And this is called NS number formatter, or number formatter. Yeah, number formatter. And initialize a number formatter. And then we'll use the amount as the type number. We can convert to a type number. So let amount as type number equal the number formatter dot so we can get a number from string so I think we can use a number and convert the amount as a string, as text. Oh, so this will need to be the number formatter. Number and then convert to a string. And it needs this from. So number formatter convert to a number. So now I have this as a number, and I want to write it correctly. and then finally get the actual amount itself. So let amount equal amount as number dot float value, and here is the float value that converts to a float. That question mark came because we forgot to add that exclamation. So if I add it here, I don't need it. So I took a text and then created this NumberFormatter object, and that allowed me to convert the text to a type number, and then the type number I can retrieve it in any format that I want, whether it's a float, integer, double. So I got the float from it. You may have done this in much less steps, but I wanted to show you the path so you understand what happened. And I'm gonna stop here and continue the next steps in the next video to make it to make them shorter.